I paid $185 a week to watch my therapist date my ex. Now her license is gone, and I'm in love. Hi, I'm Nolan. I'm 31, a product photographer based in Seattle, and 3 months ago, I found out my therapist was sleeping with my ex-girlfriend. After one too many wine-fueled nights spiraling, I did something most people would only dare to fantasize about. I ended her career and started dating her husband. Yeah, that's a sentence you don't expect to say outside of a Netflix drama. But I lived it. All of it. It started with me sitting across from Dr. Celeste Lang in her cozy, plant-filled office in Capitol Hill. Warm lighting, faux leather couch, one of those diffusers that always smelled like eucalyptus and guilt. I'd been seeing her weekly since Marissa, my girlfriend of 2.5 years, dumped me without warning. One day we were picking out tiles for a hypothetical future bathroom. The next, she was sobbing about needing space to rediscover herself. Celeste was good. Disarmingly good. She had this serene, soft-spoken way of getting you to spill your guts while thinking it was your idea. I told her everything. About how I met Marissa at a photography exhibit when she pretended to know something about shutter speeds. About how we'd leave notes in each other's shoes. About how the breakup felt like my body had forgotten how to breathe. She nodded, listened, occasionally offered sage advice that felt like it came from some ancient scroll of wisdom. Grief is nonlinear, Nolan, she once said, in that voice like melted butter over a sad poem. And I believed her. Paid her $185 per session to believe her. Then came the Tuesday I forgot my phone. I'd left Celeste's office at 5 p.m., like always. Got halfway to my Subaru before realizing I didn't have my phone. Mild panic, nothing serious. I walked back up, figuring her receptionist, Drew, would still be at the front. He wasn't. The waiting room was dark. The office door slightly ajar. I was about to knock when I heard a laugh. A laugh I knew like the back of my own stupid heart. Marissa. Then Celeste's voice, giggling like a teenager. I stood there frozen. And then, because I'm apparently a glutton for psychological torture, I peeked through the cracked door. Marissa was on the couch. My couch. The one where I'd cried over her. Celeste's hand was on her knee. Her shoes were off. They were kissing. I backed away before they saw me, walked to my car in a daze, and sat there, keys in hand, like my brain had just blue-screened. My therapist was sleeping with my ex. You want to hear about betrayal? This wasn't a chapter. This was the whole damn book. And I was about to become the editor. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, lights off, staring at the ceiling like it had answers. I replayed every therapy session. Every time I talked about Marissa, my heartbreak, my confusion. Celeste hadn't just heard about the breakup. She'd studied it. Like a coach scouting both teams before throwing on a jersey and jumping into the game. And the worst part? I trusted her. I told her things I hadn't even told my best friend. Not Mason, not my mom, nobody. I cried in front of this woman. I ugly cried. The kind where your nose makes sad little trumpet noises and your soul tries to crawl out your tear ducts. And all that time, she was cozying up to Marissa. Behind that perfect therapist mask and the soothing voice and the linen pants. The next morning, I told Mason everything. He's my best friend, roommate, and chaos enabler. She what? I poured him coffee, hands still shaking. They were making out on the couch. The actual therapy couch. Mason blinked. That's like if your doctor started dating your tumor. That's not how tumors work. You know what I mean. He was pacing now. This is illegal, right? It has to be illegal. I'd already looked it up. Turns out, according to the American Psychological Association, therapists absolutely cannot start relationships with their current or former clients' partners. It's a major ethics violation, practically a career death sentence. You have to report her, Mason said. I'm thinking about it. Thinking? Nolan, she banged your ex on the couch where you cried about your ex. That's not just unethical. That's spiritual level messed up. He had a point. But I didn't want justice. Not yet. I wanted something better. I wanted understanding. I wanted to know why. And, yeah, okay, maybe I wanted to watch her life unravel a little, too. Just a little. That night, after a glass of bourbon and a truly unhealthy deep dive into Celeste's personal life online, I found her husband. Julian Lang. Software engineer. Triathlete. Makes his own almond milk, apparently. He looked like the kind of guy who flosses every day and remembers to water his houseplants. His LinkedIn profile said he worked at a clean energy startup and played cello on weekends. Of course he did. But what really got me was the wedding photo. Julian and Celeste in a sun-drenched vineyard. Her in a silky dress, him in a tan suit, both beaming like people who hadn't yet ruined a man's trust in humanity. And I wondered, did he know? Did he have any idea his wife was weaponizing therapy sessions to seduce emotionally fragile exes? I drafted an email. I didn't send it. I just stared at the screen. But the idea had rooted itself. What if I told him? Would he believe me? Would he care? Or better yet, would he help me burn her world down? I sent the email. Subject line, "You deserve the truth." I kept it simple. Polite, even. Told Julian I'd been a client of his wife's. That I had reason to believe she was engaged in a personal relationship with someone I'd spoken about extensively during our sessions. That this wasn't a threat, or blackmail, or some weird jealous ex thing. I just thought he should know. I included no details. Just a burner Gmail and a promise to answer any questions he might have. He responded 22 minutes later. "This is unexpected, but if you're being honest, I want to hear what you have to say. When and where?" We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop in Fremont. Neutral ground. Busy enough to prevent a scene. Quiet enough to ruin his day in peace. I wore black. Not on purpose. But later, it felt fitting. Julian was already there when I arrived. Navy pullover, slim glasses, a laptop open in front of him like he'd been pretending to work but hadn't typed a word. He looked up when I approached. Stood. "Nolan." I nodded. "Julian." We shook hands. It was weirdly cordial, like we were two coworkers meeting to discuss quarterly betrayal projections. I sat. He didn't waste time. "Talk to me." I took a deep breath. "I've been seeing Celeste for about 7 months. Weekly sessions. Mostly about a breakup." "Your ex?" "Yeah. Her name's Marissa. She and I dated for over 2 years. Broke up back in August. I started therapy in June." Julian frowned. "Okay. I thought the breakup was mutual confusion. Turns out, Celeste was seeing her. Personally. Romantically. I walked in on them. In her office. Last Tuesday." He stared at me, completely still. His jaw flexed once. Twice. "What do you mean walked in?" "I forgot my phone after a session. Came back. The door to her office was cracked. They were on the couch. Kissing." Silence. I slid my phone across the table. "These are the texts I got from her that night. And from Marissa. You'll see the timestamps line up." I wasn't imagining it. Julian picked up my phone. Scrolled. His face changed, slowly but definitely. From confusion, to recognition, to something hollow and sad. "She said she was working late that night," he muttered. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "I know this is a lot." He handed the phone back. His hands were shaking. "You know what's wild? This isn't the first time. There was a guy last year. She swore it was emotional, not physical. We did counseling. I thought we were past it." I nodded, numb. Guess she's got a type. Heartbroken and available for boundary violations? That, or just convenient? He rubbed his eyes. "So what are you going to do? File a complaint?" I thought about it. But honestly, I want her to know she messed with the wrong person. That she can't just violate people and move on like it never happened. Julian stared at me for a long beat. Then he said, "What if we do both?" I blinked. "Both?" He leaned forward, voice low. "You get your justice. I get my closure. We file the complaint. Then we make sure everyone in her professional circle knows exactly what she did." My eyebrows went up. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." I smiled for the first time in days. Turns out betrayal makes strange allies. But sometimes those allies come bearing gasoline. Julian and I became co-conspirators faster than I ever expected. By the following afternoon, he'd already pulled up Celeste's professional license details, ethics guidelines, and the exact state board procedures for filing a formal complaint. I'd sent over my therapy notes and the timeline. He backed it all up with their shared calendar entries and Marissa's name showing up way too often on coffee meetings and errand blocks. God, she even put her name in the calendar? I asked, stunned. "Celeste is organized," Julian said. "Turns out it makes it easier to catch her." We filed the complaint together. Submitted every email, text, calendar entry, and one written statement from yours truly detailing how she crossed every professional line in existence. Julian even included a short note at the end, something like, "As her husband and a witness to multiple prior infidelities, I believe this is part of a concerning pattern." Cold, precise, devastating. But we weren't done. Julian had connections. Apparently, he occasionally guest lectured at a local clinical psych program, which meant he knew people, professors, colleagues, therapists in training. Discreetly, carefully, we started sharing the facts. Not gossip, not rumors. Facts. Because Celeste had violated not just me, but the core of her profession, the trust between therapist and patient. And suddenly, people were whispering. Meanwhile, Marissa texted me. Marissa, can we talk? Please? I ignored it. Then Celeste tried calling. Twice. I sent one reply, just to shut the door. Don't contact me. Ever. You know what you did. And now everyone else will, too. Mason came home one night to find me and Julian eating takeout on the couch, mid-conversation about licensing statutes. He blinked. Is this, like, your villain origin story? Or your buddy comedy arc? Julian held up a forkful of noodles. Both. Mason nodded. Cool. I'm Team Vengeance. Pass the soy sauce. But underneath the righteous fury was something else. Something weird and unsettling. I like talking to Julian. Not just about Celeste. About anything. He was funny, quick-witted, had this dry sarcasm that slipped out when you least expected it. And he got it. The heartbreak. The betrayal. The sense that you'd been living in a simulation designed to humiliate you. One night after reviewing the latest update from the state board, they'd officially opened an investigation. We sat in silence for a while, sipping beers in my kitchen. Then Julian said, Is it messed up that I feel relieved? Not even a little, I said. I should be angry. But I just feel done. Like the spell broke. Yeah, I get that. He looked at me. We should celebrate. Celebrate. You helped me finally walk away. I think that deserves a drink. You're literally already holding one. Okay, another drink. Less sad beer in a kitchen. More we survived the worst people on earth. I grinned. Deal. Neither of us knew then that surviving them wasn't the end of the story. It was just the start of ours. Julian and I didn't plan to become whatever we became. There wasn't some grand moment of realization. No dramatic slow-motion kiss in the rain. It was gradual. A look that lingered too long. A shoulder bump that didn't quite pull away. Jokes that felt a little too personal. Compliments that hit a little too hard. And then one night, it just happened. We were at his place, his now, since Celeste had moved out. Hemingway, their golden retriever, he got full custody in the split, was dozing by the fireplace. We were watching some terrible true crime documentary, half paying attention, half recapping the most recent absurd text Julian got from Celeste. She wants to mediate the division of the espresso machine. Who does that? He looked over at me, eyes crinkled from laughing. You know, he said, I can't tell if this whole revenge arc is healing me or just turning me into a chaos gremlin. I raised my beer. To healing via chaos. He clinked his bottle against mine. It's working. I haven't slept this well in years. We sat in silence for a second. The good kind. The kind that feels earned. And then he said quietly, Can I ask you something? Sure. If none of this happened, if Celeste hadn't done what she did, do you think we'd be here? I didn't pretend not to understand what he meant. I looked at him. Really looked at him. No, I said. But I'm not sure that means we shouldn't be. That was it. No grand declarations. No dramatic music. Just two people who had been gutted by the same blade, realizing they weren't bleeding anymore. At least not the same way. I kissed him first. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was months of betrayal and loneliness, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but I am crashing into one electric second. When we pulled back, he looked stunned. So did I, probably. Then he said, Wow. Yeah. That was either a terrible idea or the best decision we've made all year. I shrugged. Why not both? We spent the night together. No regrets. No guilt. Not even in the morning. And for the first time since that horrible Tuesday, I didn't feel like someone who'd been destroyed. I felt like someone who was finally starting to build something. Maybe not a future. Not yet. But at least something honest. Something real. I expected it to feel weird afterward. You know, waking up next to the husband of the therapist who emotionally vivisected you like it was her day job. But it didn't. It felt calm. Julian made coffee. I made pancakes. Burned one side, naturally. And Hemingway sat between us like he was silently judging our taste and life choices. We didn't talk about what happened right away. Didn't need to. The silence wasn't heavy, just full. Like the air before a thunderstorm that never comes. So, Julian finally said, poking at his pancake with the edge of his fork. That happened. It did, I said, sipping my coffee. I regret nothing. He smiled, but it faded quickly. Is this crazy? Like, actually crazy? You're my wife's former patient. My soon-to-be ex-wife, but still. I mean, I said, if it helps, she broke every ethics rule in the book first. We're just creatively responding. He laughed at that. Creative justice? Reparative chaos. He pointed his fork at me. That's the title of our memoir. We didn't label what we were. Not then. We still had fallout to survive. Because Celeste? She wasn't going quietly. The state board had formally suspended her license pending full investigation. Her practice partner dropped her like a hot rock. Word spread in Seattle's tight therapy circles fast. I started getting cryptic DMs from unknown accounts. You should be ashamed. Jealous X much. Hope the drama was worth it. But the worst came from Marissa. She showed up at my building. I came home from a shoot to find her sitting on the steps, sunglasses on, like she was about to audition for some Bachelor in Therapy spinoff. Nolan, she said, standing up. I didn't slow my pace. Nope. Please. Just 5 minutes. Nope. She followed me up the steps. It wasn't what it looked like. I stopped. Turned slowly. I saw you. With your tongue in my therapist's mouth. So unless this is one of those metaphors I missed in therapy, I'm pretty sure it was exactly what it looked like. She said you were over me. That you were fine with us seeing each other. I blinked. We were literally talking about my heartbreak over you in our sessions. She knew I wasn't fine. She manipulated me, Marissa said, suddenly tearful. She said you were obsessed. That you needed closure. That she was helping you let go. I stared at her. Let me get this straight. You believe she used you to manipulate me while pretending to help me get over you, while simultaneously dating you. She nodded. Dead serious. You hear yourself, right? I'm sorry, she whispered. Too late. I stepped inside, closed the door, didn't look back. I'd wasted enough time on people who mistook apologies for accountability. Julian came over that night. Brought wine and a stupid movie. He didn't even need to ask. He could see it on my face. Marissa, he said. I nodded. Let me guess. Tearful. Victimized. Somehow the real victim here. She said Celeste manipulated her. He raised an eyebrow. Maybe she did. But that doesn't make her innocent. Nope. We clinked glasses. Watched the movie. That night, as I drifted off beside him, I realized something. Healing doesn't always look like closure. Sometimes, it looks like leaving the door closed on someone who doesn't deserve to come back in. By December, Celeste's license was officially revoked. The letter came to both me and Julian since we'd submitted joint statements. It was cold, clinical, all bureaucratic language and legalese, but the weight of it? Oh, that landed. Due to violations of Section 5.01 and 10.01 of the APA Ethics Code, the practitioner's license is revoked effective immediately. Reapplication for licensure may be considered after a minimum period of 5 years, subject to board review. Translation, she was done. 12 years of private practice. A stacked client list. Guest appearances on mental health podcasts. Gone. And I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt like this was the finish line. Instead, I felt hollow. Because Celeste wasn't the only one I needed to let go of. There was still a version of me that had sat in that therapy office believing I was broken. That healing was a destination only reachable by paying someone to hold a flashlight. That version of me had trusted the wrong person. But he wasn't stupid. Just hopeful. And I owed him a little grace. Julian must have sensed the shift in me. Want to disappear for the weekend? He asked one Friday afternoon. I know a place on the coast. Cabin. No service. Just ocean, coffee, and bad board games. I blinked. You're describing a horror movie. He shrugged. It's romantic horror. We're the hot leads. So we went. And it was, God, it was perfect. Gray waves crashing outside. A fire crackling inside. Julian beat me at Scrabble twice before I finally caught on that he was stacking words like empath and redemption just to make a point. One night, after too much wine and not enough shame, I said, do you think we're insane? Like, universally? Two people who met because of the worst person either of us dated? He didn't answer right away. Just looked at me across the couch. I think we're lucky, he said finally. Because most people just get the betrayal. We got each other. Gross. I know. But I melted a little. Okay, a lot. Later that night, tangled up in each other under heavy blankets. Julian whispered, I don't want to keep calling you my ex-wife's former client. I snorted. It's got a certain charm. I want to just call you mine. And that's when I knew. This thing, this weird, poetic, vengeance-fueled thing, was real. It wasn't rebound. It wasn't revenge. It was the thing I'd been trying to build with someone else for 2.5 years, but never truly had. Trust. Real, mutual, messy, earned trust. Back in Seattle, Mason took one look at me when I walked through the door and said, Okay, who are you and what have you done with emotionally shattered Nolan? I'm rebranded. To what exactly? Functionally happy. He blinked. You're disgusting. I'm thrilled. Julian and I didn't go Instagram official. We weren't that kind of couple. But people figured it out. A few raised eyebrows. A few awkward silences at mutual friends' parties. And you know what? I didn't care. Because for the first time in a long time, I didn't need anyone else to approve of my story. It was mine. And I was writing the ending myself. 6 months later, I ran into Celeste at a bookstore. Of all places, I was in the self-help aisle, which now feels like dark irony, flipping through a book called Radical Accountability. And suddenly, there she was. No makeup, no linen blazer. Hair down, frizzy, dark circles under her eyes. She looked human, which, honestly, was jarring. Nolan, she said, stopping like she wasn't sure if she should smile or apologize or run. I blinked. Celeste. Awkward silence hung in the air like smoke. I saw the board's decision, I said finally. She nodded, eyes heavy. I figured you would. I closed the book and put it back. You doing okay? She let out a bitter laugh. No, but I'm surviving. A pause. I took a job managing inventory for a home goods store, she said. Nobody asks about my credentials there. Nobody confides in me. It's actually kind of nice. I didn't respond. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I wasn't sure which version of myself should say it. The one who burned down her career, or the one who healed from it. I wanted to hate you, she said. I still might. But I also understand. What I did was, she stopped. I don't know what I was trying to prove. That I still had control. That I could make someone love me. You picked the worst possible person, I said. Marissa? She winced. Yeah. That imploded 2 weeks after you reported me. Shocker. Julian's doing well, I added casually. Her face tensed, like she'd been expecting it, but still couldn't hide the sting. He always deserved better than me. He found it. She nodded slowly. Good. I'm glad. I should have walked away then. But I didn't. I forgive you, I said. She looked up, shocked. But not for you. For me. Because carrying that weight wasn't noble. It was just exhausting. We parted ways without another word. I walked outside, called Julian. You'll never guess who I just saw. Please say Marissa fell into a puddle of kombucha. Close. When I got home, he was already cooking. Hemingway trotted to the door like I was the best thing to happen to him that day. And honestly, same. Julian handed me a glass of wine. You okay? Yeah. Actually, yeah. We sat on the couch, side by side. The life we built around us. The silence was warm. Not the kind that comes after hurt, but the kind that says, we made it. And maybe that's the whole point. Revenge is satisfying. But peace? Peace is the real prize. I didn't just survive betrayal. I found someone who saw all the broken pieces and didn't flinch. Celeste and Marissa? They were chapters. Wild, messy, painful chapters. But Julian? He's the plot twist I never saw coming. And this? This is the love story I never thought I deserved, but got anyway. Because sometimes, when your therapist sleeps with your ex, you don't fall apart. You fall into something better. Something real. And yeah, karma's a beautiful damn thing.